I think like people are more comfortable revealing what we have always known, which is like the human state is in constant fluctuation. Would I co-sign all of Hannah's behavior? No. Do I think Hannah can be insufferable at times? Certainly. Do I think that she's going to grow up into like a fully healthy, engaged adult? Absolutely, because she's actually learning. She's not an incurable narcissist. She's learning from her mistakes.
Mhm.
She's capable of feeling remorse. She didn't hit someone with her car and run. Like, she is actually. I feel like we feel more empathy when, like I remember there was this show, The Sinner, with Jessica Biel, where, like,
Oh
in,
my
like,
God, when she remembers.
she's in, like, a
She
fugue
remembers.
state and, like, stabs a man to death and
Yeah.
then remembers what he did to her. And I'm like, we have more empathy for someone who, like, stabs a man 1,000 times in a fugue state than somebody who just, like, kind of occasionally is rude to her friend. And by the way, I had more empathy for Jessica Biel stabbing a man in a fugue state than I did for myself in my 20s. Just being complicated.
Hey guys, it's me, Amelia Ritthaler from Girls Rewatch Podcast. Before we jump into today's episode with Lena Dunham herself, I just wanted to pop in really quick and say thank you, seriously, so much. We are so grateful for all the love and support you've shown us over the years. We honestly would not be here today without you guys listening, sharing, chatting in the comments with us on TikTok and Instagram. It feels so wild that we've been able to find this little corner of the internet full of people who love messy, amazing TV about girls just as much as we do. If you haven't already, make sure you're following the podcast and please go give us a 5-star rating on Spotify or Apple. It helps us a ton and keeps the pod going. And if this is your first time here, literally, hi, hello, welcome. Drop a comment below and let us know which girl you are. Also, scroll back through the feed. We've, at this point, covered every single episode of Girls, so there's a lot to catch up on. Right now, we've been rewatching Broad City, another classic millennial NYC TV show. And this fall, we're excited for our new era where we'll be talking more about TV shows coming out right now and figuring out which series to rewatch next. So stick around for that. Anyways, so today's episode is part 1 of our interview with Lena Dunham. We ended up talking to her for so long that we decided to split it into 2 parts. But in this half, we are mainly getting into Girls, the backlash of it all back then, and like how people are recontextualizing the show now, and just letting Lena kind of go off about the show, TBH. Part 2 will be out next Tuesday, which will continue discussing Girls and also get a little bit more into her new show. And yeah, we're so excited we got to do this and we're so excited to share it with you. So let's get into it. Welcome back to Girls Rewatch, a podcast about girls
TV
and girls on TV. I'm Amelia Ritthaler.
And I'm Evan Lazarus.
And while we have been rewatching Broad City over the last year, we decided to take a break to dive back into Girls and talk to the queen herself. How do you feel?
I can't answer that in words.
Totally.
It's impossible.
If we seem really awkward and weird, it's because we're freaking the hell out.
Yeah.
I've been feeling so weird all morning. You know how I famously don't feel anything in my body because of my Prozac?
Yeah.
I felt excitement and fear this morning.
It permeated through.
It permeated through the Prozac.
That's hard to do.
No, it's literally hard to do.
Oh
No
my
one's been
God.
able to
I
do
know
it.
this morning, I follow no rituals in my life. Today, I made rituals for myself. I made a sequence of events to start off my morning.
If you don't think I did mirror
I know.
affirmations.
I just did empowerment. Like, you know, when you put your hands on your hips.
What's it called? Super.
Well, usually we would know these words, but of course we're in a fight.
We're going to forget the
flight
English
mode.
language towards her, and it's going to be really awkward. She's going to be so sweet about it, I bet.
This will be so kind about how.
I hope she bullies us. That'd be cool, too.
She won't.
She won't.
She's such
won't.
a nice woman. Well, we'll find out. No, she is. I relate to say my outfit today is giving like, are you a schoolgirl or are you getting schoolgirl? It's both.
It's both. It is like you are a schoolgirl, but you're getting schooled, sister. I, of course, try to dress corporate because this is, I'm like, are we supposed to hug her?
Well,
or
we
shake
are
her
in the
hand?
Spotify studios.
Which, by the way,
It's
everybody
the most
here is
corporate place a place
cool.
could be.
We're learning about the social dynamics of each floor. I love it. Anyways, if you guys aren't up to date on Lena's whole story, basically, Girls came out in 2012, right? It ended in 2017. We've been rewatching since 2023. And she, of course, like escaped to London and fell in love and got married. And she's been making a bunch of movies and stuff in between that. But now she's doing a show for Netflix that comes out this summer.
Too much. Starring Meg Stalter.
Starring my favorite girl, Meg Stalter. And this is the most like close to her narrative
Right. She's
since
writing.
Girls. Girls.
It's more biographical, it feels, as a show, because all the projects she's taken on since then, like Treasure or Catherine Called Birdie,
Yeah. Sharp
Sharp
Stick.
Stick, have been very more fictional tales, but this is definitely an exploration of Lena herself.
It's about falling in love with a musician in London, which literally happened to her. But we're so excited to talk girls with her, but we're also going to be talking too much. And we are so honored and privileged
to have her on a couch.
to have her on a couch.
Not on our couch, but a couch.
Should we cut to her now?
I'm so excited.
Okay.
Cutting to Lena.
See y'all soon.
Despite not being on social media, it's amazing how much people make you aware of social media.
Yes.
You have people must be sending you memes all the time.
Yes, but interestingly, firstly, it's an honor to be here.
It's an honor to have you here. You literally been on my vision board for like 2 years, and now it's happening, and it's kind of freaking me out because I didn't know vision boards could be that powerful.
To be on anyone's vision board is, I thought vision boards were reserved for Queen Latifah and the words, dream on, like I didn't, to magazine cutouts of the word dream. Like I didn't know that I could be there. So thank you.
Oh my God.
It's a pleasure.
I'm in shock, honestly.
Well,
we tried to record an intro before we got here, and we forgot all the words in the English language.
I got really nervous this morning because I was like, this isn't just a regular sit down. Maybe I'm not at my most articulate today. I was like, these kids have given me, sorry to call you kids, but I am significantly older than you.
I like it.
Okay.
I'll go with it.
These kids have given me a great gift, which is thoughtful attention to something that I made when I was young and hungry and didn't know what it was going to be. And then, the culture moves on, and to have people examine it with such precision and humor and care is like something most artists will never get to experience in their lifetime. So it makes me emotional to think about. And despite my not being on social media and myself, you better bet everyone from my mom to the rest of the members of her film group to, teenagers in restaurants, to cousins, to all of your fans, to other people from the show who it meant so much to. Like everyone on the show, because it's not just my show. It's meant so much to all of us.
Aww.
And it's a real pleasure to be with you.
Oh my God, well, it's been
we
so
can end
fun
the pod
to
there.
Yeah.
That was I was planning what I was going to say in my head because it's, both my parents are artists. I know what it looks like for an artist to have a long career and go with the ups and downs. And when Girls ended, there was, the world goes on and your life goes on. And I fully expected to sort of like have, I don't know, someone tell me when I was 52 that they had enjoyed it while they had COVID.
Totally.
And so then to have you two create this really thoughtful dialogue around it's something really special that has made, I think, the experience of the show and all the complexities of life around the show really worth it, not just for me, but for everyone who went through it. So thank you.
Oh my God, thank you.
That's so
That's
kind.
so nice. I'm freaking out.
I mean, you've given us so much. I mean, this is really such a...
Our life in New York is so attached to your show. We have not lived one day in New York and not mentioned the show or talked to someone about the show. Like, everything about our life is, like, connected to and kind of based off of Girls. And so it's so cool to, like, I don't know. The fact that you even know who we are is crazy.
Do you two live together?
We used to.
Was it, if I may ask,
No,
because I was saying
please.
before we were on camera, I was like, I don't know all the lore because it felt egomaniacal. I was like, well, I'm not going to be a weekly listener. I did subscribe to boost your numbers.
That means the world.
That's amazing.
I was like, I'm not going to not subscribe. I want them up the charts, of course. But I also cannot just sit in bed listening to it. That would be wild.
But if you get in the mood, like, feel free.
And feel free to go for. Well, now that you're talking about other shows, I can. But
totally.
I also was deeply made aware because even though I don't run my own social media, and so then I do have the one thing I do have that connects me in real time to the internet, not through my beautiful interface who shall not be named, but is my connection to all things World Wide Web. A gorgeous woman with great fashion and style. Period. Who does that for me. She helped me make like a lurker TikTok account.
Like a burner.
A burner.
It's like
because-
you and Tina Fey with your lurker TikTok account.
Does she have one?
Yeah.
And has she talked about it or does she exposed herself?
She's like, well, Amy Poehler's on the app and like being Amy Poehler, and Tina's like, oh, like I'm on it, but I'm lurking. Like I don't post. Like no one's ever gonna find it.
So I'm lurking. I don't post. No one's ever gonna find it. But I love watching, and I love watching you two. I follow both of you
Oh my
and
god.
the pod, and I just
Like,
love.
scroll through after to figure it out.
I love, and I've commented on your videos before and been like, and I think I said something kind of obtuse, like
Well, you said, I'm Lena, and this is great. And we're like, no, I don't believe you.
I was like, I'm Lena. I love this. Keep going. You're the best. Seriously, I'm Lena. Like it was something actually nuts.
And I get that comment once a day.
Yeah, it was something actually nuts where I was like, yeah, no one would. But it never occurred to me someone would ever make a double account of me. So I was like, of course they'll think it's me because who would ever
Of course.
mimic me on the
Yeah.
app? But I love it just because it's great for the I think TikTok's the only app that like adds to my creative
Mhm.
life and doesn't take
Yeah.
away, because it's like the equivalent of scrolling television was when I
Right.
used to come home from school and like scroll from like Jerry Springer to Days of Our Lives to UPN to Sister. Like it has there's something creative about TikTok that I think maybe some of the
Yes,
other
I
ones have.
totally agree with you. It lets so many little niches exist in a way that neither Instagram, YouTube truly has. Like you are able to capture an audience through a specific lens that is not capable through Instagram. Is so like it's all like weird memes. Not weird. We make weird memes every day, but it's these moments that don't feel super genuine. TikTok, I really get like so infatuated with some creators, and they get really into their lore, and it gets so deep. I don't feel like it exists on other platforms, so I understand.
But I brought this up because I was like, I don't know all your lore because I haven't listened to the whole pod. So that's why I wanted to know, did you guys move out because you had a roommate breakup, or did you just do it because
I think we'll announce it on this podcast, but we had a little bit of a tiff, honestly.
Yeah, so it's almost a year ago, but we
Is this the first time you've talked about it?
Like kinda.
on the pod, yes.
Wow, this is so special for me to be a part of it. This is huge.
Basically, I met Evan at an open mic. I had just moved to New York,
Okay.
and then that summer I met
I'm
Evan.
settling in. Now I feel safe because I'm like, we're talking about something deeply vulnerable. I'm ready to go. I'm going to
Well-
make this feel cozy for you too.
Yeah, I moved in really quickly. Like I broke my lease to move in with Evan, and then we moved.
Because you two just met and it was like soulmates.
Mhm.
Yeah, and I was like, this is my girl. And then like 4 months into living together, we were like, we have to launch a podcast, obviously. And then
Well, when you have a friend and you go, we're the funniest together, no one could be funnier. And that's the best part of being in your 20s is you're talking to your friend. That's why I wrote Girls. It's because I'd sit there talking
Literally.
to my friends and I'd go, do you realize we didn't really have the word iconic then?
yeah.
Like, but if I had it, I would have been like, do you know how iconic we are? Like, I'd be talking, my best friends, Audrey, Isabel, Joanna, Jemima.
Girl, we know him.
You know them all. Audrey, Joanna, Isabel, Joanna, Jemima. Love you, ladies. And I would be sitting there and I'd be like, we're the funniest people who've ever lived. And everyone else basically deserves to like lie face down on the street because they're not us.
Literally.
Absolutely.
Well, thank
That's-
God you didn't have a microphone and had a camera instead, because Girls might have been a podcast.
Yeah. Oh my God.
That would have been scary.
And without would have been, we were not in a position to pod right then.
No, I want it so bad.
Well, so you were like, we've got to launch a podcast.
Right.
We had a girls themed housewarming party.
Well, it
Everybody
was even before the podcast. We just really
Yeah, and then we were just like, well, girls is on the mind. Let's talk about girls now that we're living the life of girls, but we're like
Yeah.
the Gen Z counterparts. And then we moved to Bushwick, and I really didn't like it there. And yeah, our lives had been so
Right, we got so intertwined so fast. Like
Yeah.
we immediately like became friends, lived with each other.
had all
Started
the
the
same
podcast.
had
Started
all the
pod-
same friends.
all
We're
the
both
same
trying to do
friends.
stand up. Like
Within how many months?
Like
5.
and meeting each other. Or how long did
Like within how many months of meeting each other were you living together with
Oh.
a podcast?
like 7 months?
7 months.
Like
Yeah.
very fast.
And as
Um,
someone who loves a rocket launch of a friendship,
Mhm.
I can relate because I love
Yeah.
intimacy.
It's a real
Yeah.
like romance of sorts. Like Amelia is such like one of my big romance in New York City so far.
Of course.
Where we've been
Literally.
so intertwined in such a beautiful way, but also that can be tumultuous. And I think when you live with someone or doing a creative project with them and you have all these other aspects of your lives together, like we still enjoyed each other's company, but just being in front of each other, especially like as the podcast is growing, it just there's too much conflict in that. And we needed our time to separate so we can come back together and really enjoy each other's presences.
Yeah.
And so Amelia moved to Williamsburg, and honestly, like it really almost immediately started getting better from there.
You know how people say, like, just because, like, wherever you go, there you are? No,
Yeah.
it changed everything.
By the way, when I moved to London, it changed everything. Like,
Exactly.
sometimes wherever you go, there you are. And sometimes wherever you go, there you are. You know, it's like
Literally.
sometimes it's just an inflection thing. Do you mind if I ask you more questions?
Please.
Please.
So you talk about this so elegantly, but I know what it's like. You know, I was making girls with my friends. Jemima's my childhood best friend. I've done lots of creative projects with friends. There are days where you have to show up and you're like, we got to give the people what they want, but we're not feeling this personally, or we're feeling really stressed with each other, or we're just young people who wish we could go hide with our faces in our pillows, but we've got to trot out all these thoughts. Did you have days in the middle of the tumult where you're like, I can't believe we have to get together and be funny when we're feeling this way about each other?
Absolutely.
And there's a lot of them, like, fighting right before the guest comes and then locking in and being like, hey!
That's really, and do you feel like, were there moments where you thought, oh gosh, we're going to have to break up our podcast?
Totally.
Yeah, we got close.
That's,
It was both something we really enjoyed as a project, and ultimately because people really were resonating with it, and we both just love talking about TV, and girls particularly. It's like there's no way to give this up, right? And I feel like this show had a lot of lessons that kind of were reflecting our personal tropes and fights at the same time.
wow.
And it's very cool to watch girls as we kind of were going through this tumultuous period. And I
I
think
can't
it
believe
made
we
us
were talking about
stronger. Well,
our
I also was going through like my first major breakup at the time, and then also like 2 weeks later, Amelia and I got in a big fight. So I was dealing with the breakup, and then Amelia and I were fight, and it was just such a dark space.
I also think it's, like, easy to, like, put, like, I feel like I was freaking out about being 26 and being like, what am I doing? Like, who am I? Like, is this the right way to be spending my time? And I, like, put it all on, like, the project to externalize this feeling of being lost. So I was, like, even as I was feeling it, I felt like, oh, like, I'm blaming, like, this external thing on, like, an internal battle I'm going through.
Well, I also think, firstly, thank you for being so vulnerable with me. But also, like, Girls was all about that because I realized in college, I was like not a kid who had a lot of friends. I found having friends really hard. So when I made friends, which really I didn't make truly, like Jemima was sort of, we made friends in high school and she was such an incredible influence on me because she was kind of the first person who saw me and was like, I like you. You're cool. You're interesting. And to have somebody kind of in a sea of feeling like a big old nerd, like pick me was
Yeah.
really amazing. And it wasn't like I was like a quiet mathlete. I was like kind of an annoying, probably overly loud, like lit mag theater kid who never quite felt like anyone totally wanted them around. And then Jemima was like, no, I get it. And and she was basically exactly like she is now, only as a 14-year-old, which you can imagine how disarming that was.
Totally.
And then I made friends as I got, and I had known Isabel and Joanna in childhood, and we got sort of, but they were always kind of cool girls. And so then it took time for us to grow in the same direction. I always loved them, but they had kind of a cooler life than I did. That's how I felt. I'm sure they
Yeah.
felt different. And then Audrey and I got close at the beginning of college. And when I made these female friends, it was like the biggest deal to me. It was a bigger deal than boys. It was a bigger deal than anything. And so then when we would have ruptures, it destroyed me. Like I could cry about a fight with a girlfriend in a way that I was incapable of crying about anything else. Or a male friend, a gay male friend, not a straight male friend. I have to say.
Of course.
That's not a happening. Like there was a way where breakups just seemed inevitable. I was like, boys are going to hurt your feelings. That's what they're going to do. But friends, I was like, this is horrific. These are the people who are meant to know you and see you, and they're telling you that they don't. And also, like, guilt to me is, like, the most corrosive, horrifying emotion.
Mm-hmm.
But then also wanting to be a person who makes other people feel good while also being a person who's incredibly focused on defining yourself and expressing yourself.
Yeah.
So a lot of the show was about that and trying to be close to people and then butting up against each other. And if I look back on it, it was me reflecting on all of that stuff. And what was sort of ironic was then, like, doing the show with Jemima, for example, and she would say this too, brought up new issues of working together. And it
Yeah.
brought up amazing things and challenging things. And
Mhm.
it brought up new issues with my friends of having to navigate, new challenging work schedules. And now we're in a really great place of sort of like settled adulthood. But
Mhm.
your 30s really are like, you stop having the capacity to, like, when you achieve a more solid base, you stop having the capacity to do battle with your friends in the same way, because it's
Mm.
like all of that shifting ground beneath you is a big part of it. And also everyone has a different kind of, whether it's partnership or career or just a chosen life, whatever that life looks like, there's a different kind of stability. But this is a long way of saying I really relate to what you're saying on a lot of different levels. And I'm really impressed that you didn't just, it says a lot about how much you love each other that you didn't just throw in the towel, but that you kept engaging.
Oh.
I start crying. Thank you. That's so sweet.
That's very kind of you, Lena.
And yeah, I mean, I feel like thank you for making a show that kind of expresses exactly that, because I feel like every show we watched as a kid was just about like love or whatever, like romantic, and this is the first show that was like mainly about friendship, and it's like that is the biggest, those are always the biggest relationships in my life, so it
Yeah.
feels so nice to like have it.
I'm glad I'm so glad. I mean, that's why I loved Broad City, because I was like, the
girls.
friendship is the romance of this.
Yeah.
And they're really good to each other. They understand each other. They support each other. Like, and it's interesting. I think one of the things I love Sex in the City, I love, and just like that, the thing that Sex in the City made me think was like, your girlfriends support you no matter what. They show up once a week at the right time to the cafe where you are,
Yeah.
and they
Mhm.
give you what you need. And that is not always true. That is
Yeah.
not always true. And the disappoint, like, I still am not immune. Like, last week I was like, I didn't get invited to, I think my friend forgot to invite me to their party. There's a possibility they didn't forget. They just didn't invite me. And then I was like, well, I don't really go to parties, so maybe they knew I wouldn't come. So they didn't invite me because they knew that I wouldn't come. And I was like, but even though you don't go to any parties, you still want to be
You're
invited to
still supposed to be
parties.
asked.
And then I was like, I'm never going to be immune to this. And I sometimes look at my mom and her friends, and they're 75,
Mm-hmm.
and they still have this stuff go on. And I'm
Yeah.
like, it gets better, but it never fully.
It's always season 6,
It's so
episode 9.
interesting.
It's always fucking season 6, episode 9. I hate
swear
to say it.
I hate to say
I
it.
hate to say it. And the worst is when you're like, we're not fighting because we've all made peace with the
Mhm.
ways in which each other is deficient.
Mm.
Totally.
Like, you're like, when we were fighting, we were trying to fix each other. And now we're not fighting because everyone's just like, oh, she's just like that. And my worst nightmare is my friends looking at me and going, she's just like that. But you're also like, we're all calcifying into the people that we are. So
yeah.
it's always an interesting, friendship is such an interesting, it's an interesting, like, Rorschach test for who we are in this
Yeah.
life. And it's so defines us in such a powerful way. And my friends are deeply, deeply, deeply my family.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh.
My chosen family.
I know.
Okay, wait. We have to get into. We're gonna talk about too much. We just binged it all this week.
Oh my God, I forgot that we were talking about the show. I literally forgot. I was like, we're just here to talk about your friendship and heal whatever issues you two have experienced.
Your PR girl's like, you better bring it up, or Netflix is gonna be pissed.
Yeah, or Netflix is gonna come
But we were
here.
thinking we talk about girls and then compare girls to too much.
You can do anything you want.
Okay,
I'm like-
amazing.
I was like, I really liked
It's
our
your-
conversation about friendship,
I
though.
throw this
It's
away.
your time to shine. Yeah, lead
Well-
with that, and then you can just be like, too much is on Netflix. I am not
perfect.
stressing.
Although we love the show.
We really
Do you
love
like
it.
it?
Well, By the way, I was deeply obsessed with Megan Stalter back in 2019. And when you released the article or whatever, it came out about the show, the amount of people that sent it and was like, this was made in a lab for you. Like Lena and Meg together.
Nice. I was wondering, I was like, you guys are in your 20s, so does it feel like too old people-y for you?
No, not at all.
Well, I will say one of the questions I wrote down was like, tonally it's so different because in Girls it's like all the love is kind of bad and negative and unhealthy, and then this one's healthy and it's kind of freaking me out because it's like to watch Girls now I'm like, these girls are messes, like at least I'm not as messy as them, but then I watch too much and I'm like, they know more than I do.
Well, it freaks me out too that I made it, and sometimes I watch it and I'm like, I've gone soft. Like, why isn't anyone like biting each other and saying something nasty to each other in the bedroom?
Yeah.
like this is like beautiful and romantic and touching, and I'm just like every other sappy loser who's ever lived, and something's really gone wrong.
It's rom-com forward.
Well,
I love it.
You do get to the fights in the show. You build to them a little.
Okay, that means the world to me. That means the world to me.
Yeah.
I did. There's someone does call someone a bitch to their fucking face.
Which is cool.
A man does call a woman a bitch to her face.
I texted Evan the quote today. It's like, I'm not drunk. I only had one alcohol.
I'm really glad you like that. That was Meg improv. She's such a genius.
Meg is a queen.
Oh my god. Okay, so we have an amazing question to ask you.
Lena Dunham.
Girl, what girl are you? Okay, so we have an amazing question to ask you.
Lena Dunham.
Girl, what girl are you?
Okay, I've really thought about this. It's a really
We've really thought about it.
meaningful question, and I'm really curious if you are gonna know, if you are gonna think that I'm what I think I am.
Well, okay, so our guess, we were like, she might say Ray.
But then we were like,
That's a
she
really-
might say Lorene.
Wow. Okay. Wow.
And you're like, I'm Hannah.
No, that's the interesting thing is I'm not Hannah. If I really was like, which girl am I? Like, I'm kind of a show.
I knew you were about to say that. I actually had a few. Well, because now meeting you in person, I'm like, that's a Shoshana.
I will
Yeah,
say,
I'm
yeah,
a
when you walked in,
shosh.
I was like, okay, it shows.
I'm a show. And it's confusing for people.
Well, it's so confusing because Zasha's not like Shosh, and that shocked us.
Josh is a Ray.
Zasha's a Ray
Yeah.
with the Jessa rising. She's not a shosh at all. She's just a genius. And Jemima is a Jessa in ways, but is other things too. I mean, I think Allison would argue that she's a Marnie, but she's a Marnie, but that's what makes her such a genius is that she knows she's a Marnie. And she's capable of doing un-Marnie-ish things because she's a self-aware Marnie.
Mm.
Which is the one thing Marnie lacks.
That's exactly right. So she's, in a way, she's like a Marnie with a Ray component.
Yeah.
The self-aware
like-
Marnie is like the scariest sentence I've ever heard.
I know, because you know what a self-aware Marnie is? All-powerful. A self-aware
Yeah.
Marnie could
Truly.
Really
literally
unsafe.
like take on this like American like democracy and fix it.
Wait, you know what? We need a self-aware Marnie to run the nation.
That's exactly correct. Honestly, I've been saying for years that Allison Williams should run for president.
Yes, girl.
Like I'm like, I know she's busy with Megan and with doing all her genius producing, and she's, you know, she does a lot of remarkable work both on and off the screen. She values her private life, but I'm telling you, she would make a great president.
We believe you.
I'd vote for her.
But yeah, I'm a Shoshana. And I think I've thought about this a lot, especially since you started asking people. And I think part of it is like Shoshana's an observer. And part of the reason I could write the show is because Shoshana's like a bit of, she's like a social mimic. And a lot of the
Mhm.
things she does are because they're things that she's seen other people do.
Mm.
Yeah.
She's also like, she's like a bit of a try-hard.
Yeah.
And she's also a little oblivious. But at the end of the day, she's ultimately herself. So that's the Shosh agenda.
It's almost as if you wrote her. I swear to God.
And I always remember, like, when I'd write a Shosh monologue, I'd be like, that hits right here. And when I'd write a Hannah monologue, I'd be like, what a cunt, you know? And so, yeah, that's how I feel. That's how
Do
I
you
feel.
think
And
you've evolved more into Shoshana?
I probably have. And I've probably become Shoshier as I've gotten older. And I think like some of the challenges I experienced in my 20s were that people thought they had a Hannah coming and then they met a Shosh.
Mm.
So, like, I'm way prudier.
Totally.
I'm way more prudent. Like, people would watch the show and they'd be like, this is a freaky chick. Like, this must be a freaky chick. And I'd
Right.
arrive and I'd be like, what is kissing? Like, I'm way prudier, stranger, late, like all the like Shoshana virginity stuff. That's me.
Totally.
Like, I was a late bloomer. I was a weirdo. I like didn't really know how to interact with men. I was like Ray, like a guy moving into your house and you not even realizing he did it. Like I've heard that like Shoshanas become like a bit of like a, how do the kids say it? A bit of a neurospicy icon. People think that Shoshana
a
has
neurospicy icon.
Some kids say it that
and
way.
I kind of talk like I'm of the youth, and I'm like, yes, like whatever is going on here is going on there, and then Zasha then channeled it through whatever beautiful filter Josh. But I always felt like Shosh was this like really innocent, like id that I had inside of me
Yeah.
that just was like totally untouched by the world and totally pure and itself, but also then you would also see it, what it looked like when the world kind of injured it and what that looked like too.
Ugh, when she breaks up with Ray in season 3.
I know. No, that's a real love story. I just saw Alex Karpovsky. That man does not age.
I love it. Okay, we made a list of kind of all the things we've posted that have made the internet freak out that we want to touch base with you on.
Great.
And there's a lot.
And there's
Great.
a lot.
There's so many.
Let's kick it off with, okay, first of all, Becky Ann Baker. Every time she shows up, it's amazing. But
She's the best.
her monologue, when the who's dying? The grandma's dying?
Yeah.
And it's
Yeah,
all the
June
sisters.
Squibb.
Yes, and then she has the monologue about how like Adam's a stray dog. The amount of people that felt so like this was exactly what happened to me as a 20-something. It's
Wow.
like, what are your reflections on kind of like the Adam of it all?
It's really funny because on my way here today, I had not thought about my Adam, the man who inspired the man, the myth, the legend.
Totally.
Because who inspired it all. And then Audrey sent me a photo that he was in. Like, I have like 3 photos of him existing because he existed like only like that moment when Hannah's like, I've never seen him with a shirt on. Like, he was just existed like only in the night. Like, I couldn't even locate him on the earth. Like, if you told me that he lived in the Blue Origin spaceship, I would have believed you. And there is like one photo of him because I like took him to a party and it was in a photo booth. And so I was thinking about him today. And I think there's something so appealing when you are a young person about a person, like you've spent so much time, whether it's in a family structure or a school structure, about a person that you feel like belongs only to you or that you can tame or that only you understand. And as you get older, you realize the value of people who have like robust support systems and like one of the things I love most about my husband is he has friends and he makes friends, but like at the time, like this lone wolf was so appealing to me. This person who just existed for himself and by himself, and I thought that would mean he would like exist for me, and it turns out that's not really how it works. And if you look at a person, the more people that they have around them who rely on them, the more people that they have around them who they rely on, the more likely you are to have a real exchange with them.
Right.
But I didn't get that.
Whoa. And Audrey saw him on the street?
No, she sent me a picture that she had from the one party that I took him to in the year of our Lord 2010.
Do you have any
Today.
guesses where he is today?
It's a really great question.
We can always pretend. We'll make something up.
And I believe that he is in the state of New York,
Okay.
but not the city of New York. I believe that he is in,
He's in Beacon,
that's
New
kind of the vibe. And let's just say his texts go green.
Oh, he's an Android user in Terrytown.
Let's just say he's an Android user in Terrytown, and we're going to leave it at that.
Android user in Terrytown.
Let's just say we've got a 50-year-old Android user in Terrytown, and we're going to leave it at that.
That's amazing. That's actually epic.
Yeah, and a lot of men have claimed to inspire Adam. I can name like 9 who have told people,
Really?
I am Adam.
Oh, they
But
will.
Why would
there
they
is
tell
only
people
one,
that?
and he knows who he is, and he can take it with him
To the grave.
to the grave, and he should be proud.
Wait, shout out if you're listening.
You know who you are, and the rest of you think you know who you are.
Y'all are fake. Y'all are fake.
Do you have an Android? That's a good test.
Yeah, that's true.
Do you have an Android? Are you 50? Do you live in Terrytown? If not, need not apply.
It's right next to Sleepy Hollow.
That's exactly.
One scene that I feel like this might be the scene that's permeated into Gen Z culture the most. But of course, it's Marnie singing Stronger at Charlie's app launch party.
The amount of people like personally like experiencing embarrassment in the most intense way with just watching this scene is like not to be understated.
It's like I didn't have this reaction, but I got secondhand cringe from watching the internet have a reaction to it, and then it helped me understand.
Interesting, because when I was watching it, so Judd and Jenny were big parts of creating that beautiful moment. Judd and Jenny firstly deserve the biggest shout out for everything in the world. That's just an underlying fact of their general brilliance and genius in our entire, obviously Jenny and I ran together. Judd was producing with us for many years. Like all the years, Judd is my TV, brother. I was like, you're my TV brother, father, husband. And I remember, I believe it was Jenny who came up with "I Can Be Your White Kate Moss Tonight," which is the most alarming moment of that. But I remember directing it, watching it, and being like, I'm finding this like affectingly beautiful because Allison has such a beautiful voice that I was watching and I was like, this is stunning. Like,
yeah.
And I also think now, like, it's also inflected with everything we know about Kanye West. Like, had it even been like 2 years later, I would have been like, I'm not putting this man's song in my television show. It was like the one moment that I felt like it's okay to like kind of platform this thing.
Yeah.
But it's interesting. It's all inflected with that. But I still remember when it went out, like watching it and being like, everyone should act a little embarrassed, but ultimately there's something moving about what she's putting out there.
Absolutely.
And then it went on TV and everyone was like, I want to die. I want to stab my eyes out with a fork. I want to hit my head on
literally it was
a metal plate
response.
And I think it was, I really do think that Jenny and I Can Be Your White Kate Moss Tonight had a lot to do with that.
Kind of sealed the deal.
The line heard around the world.
And I also feel like Judd was always encouraging. He was always like, Allison needs to sing. Allison needs to sing.
Thank God you let her.
I know, because Marnie wasn't meant to be a singer. And Judd saw, when we were casting, Judd saw a tape of Allison singing a Mad Men theme song mashup.
Stop.
On YouTube. There was a Mad Men theme song mashup. Google it.
On YouTube.
And he sent it to me. And I was like, this character is supposed to be like Jewish with glasses and weird. And this is like a beautiful blonde girl singing Mad Men theme song mashup. What are you doing? Like, I was like, and I was being kind of defiant in 25. And he was like, just meet her. And she came in and she was just, you couldn't not root for her. She was the funniest, smartest. I remember she started braiding my hair in the audition. Like, she just clearly understood, like...
We start braiding your hair.
Yeah, she just, like, but she just started, like, her ease, like, the ease of female friendship that she was just like, boop, 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 boop. And Judd was like, I told you it'd be funny. And Jenny was like, see.
This is our girl.
Our girl. And immediately she also just, like, was my girl. We just started girling around. And but Judd was always like, you gotta let her sing. Like, she's got the skill, and it's so funny to watch someone who's so talented get it so wrong. And I think we all know that person who's like, you're like, you've got the gift and you're using it incorrectly.
Yeah.
And so that was really special.
I love it. I am so curious. So like, originally when it aired, everybody was like, Hannah and Marnie should die. These are evil people, rot bitches.
Literally.
And now it's like people are coming around, like the amount of...
Thanks to you two.
Every day we get a comment that's like, why did we hate Hannah? She's awesome. But
I remember at the time being like, people are like, Tony Soprano is a misunderstood, kind man. He doesn't want to whack people. They're like, why do we not understand the pain of the men who are selling meth on Breaking Bad?
Yeah.
Like, the guys on Entourage seem so fun. Like, even though we now understand, like, what is that a posse of?
No.
Let's be honest. And I was like, we give one hand job goes awry in Brooklyn, and everyone's like, you ladies need to take a swim in a pile of toxic waste. And so it's really, but I really think you two have been a big part of recontextualizing it. And it was very interesting for us at the time because we didn't think we were like performing acts of extreme aggression. And so to realize like women just doing things that women do was meant to be a terrible, terrible secret was very eye-opening.
Yeah, I would feel so crazy, but I feel like the culture is finally catching up to where you were existing back
Don't worry,
then.
I still feel so crazy, but not about that.
But not about that.
Yeah.
So
So we're okay.
Yeah. I love it.
There was so much hate when the show first came out, and I wonder if were these voices there, but just felt so drowned by like the majority of people, or there's so many articles just being like, "Girls is so controversial and really has so many hard takes," and it's like I think there might have always been a resurgence there, but people have really felt more comfortable talking about it.
What's interesting, like, I was always tuned in, like partially tuned in
Right.
to what people were saying. I knew enough to know kind of like the direction it was going. It was possible to ignore. And I knew that people would tell me what it meant to them, but I also knew that there were people who were angry. I will say that just from the fact that I used to look at social media and I used to know, like, there were so many people who, when the voices of like whatever we want to call it, like the really alt-right or MAGA or conservative voices, Proud Boys, whatever, started to rise.
Mm-hmm.
And people were like, I'm so shocked by the way people are talking. I was like, I'm not. Like,
Mm-hmm.
those voices existed in the comment section. Like, I was experiencing those voices in 2012 in the way that there were so many angry, seemingly men and some women dissecting the show in these like incredibly conservative terms.
Yeah.
Like, yes, there were like people in Brooklyn who found us irritating, or liberal people who took issue with aspects of the show, and I always had a lot more respect for that, but there was also like a big contingent of conservative people like really looking at it almost as like evidence of a certain kind of like moral decrepitude, and
Mm-hmm.
also making like big judgments about our physical bodies, our sexuality. So like it was really interesting to like realize kind of what a surprise that was to some people, because it didn't in like even 2016 or 2018, because it didn't feel like a surprise to me.
Right.
Yeah.
And I think reflecting on the show and looking at what you're just talking about, like it feels like if Girls was almost like one of the first casualties of Trump's America, where people really took such like a hard stake on this amazing show.
Well, thank
Um,
you.
and now like reflecting on like what you're talking about, like there was this conversation there, and it's only been given a rise as we
Well, there's
sadly.
certainly like much more like, there's much more like real world important
Mm-hmm.
cultural casualties where, that are like affecting people's lived experience and their day to day. That being said, I do think that there has been an increased rate. Like, we had a moment of sexual openness and body positivity, and a moment of like loosening kind of boundaries that are now then felt like they tightened again.
Yeah.
And what I feel like I started Girls in this little window where like a lot of things felt possible, and then it started to narrow, but the train had already left the station.
Yeah.
So I was like, oh my God, I thought we could get naked on TV. Blech, we're already naked on TV. And I didn't realize that people are like kind of pissed. And so, and I was old enough to create and do that, but I wasn't really old enough to, I think you have to live a certain amount of life to like step back and have real kind of cultural, sociological perspective
Yeah.
on backlash like that. I still don't have it. I mean,
But
you
to
could
be 24, it's like, why are they so mad is how I would feel.
It truly feels like when you get home and you're 10 minutes late for your curfew and you look at your parents and you're like, you're so pissed. It was 10 minutes.
Yeah.
Now I have much more of an ability to understand. There's a lot of perspectives I empathize with.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Like, I empathize with people who watched the show and felt angry because they were like these lazy, entitled bitches. Like, I have a much clearer sense, even though the show is satire, and you two have always recognized that in a really clear way. It's satire that also has an emotional, light component.
Mm-hmm.
We weren't going, this is what a young woman's life should look like. We were satirizing a certain kind of upper middle class, upwardly mobile reality. But I think that for so many people, the American experiment is such a failure,
Mm-hmm.
and their lives are so difficult,
Mm-hmm.
have been made so difficult, are so compounded and fractured with judgment, with crippling financial instability,
Mm-hmm.
with, with like extreme, judgment, whether it's around sexuality or race or gender or whatever it may, like that the realities of the girls just seemed so flippant and
Mhm.
absurd. I have so much empathy for that perspective. And if people didn't like it for that reason, I was like, you know what? I get you.
Totally.
I get you guys. Like, there's a lot of people who need, and that's why that's why I've always been an advocate for lots of different kinds of TV, because there needs to be TV for people who want to see a satirization of their reality, which
Mhm.
is where their day-to-day concern. There are a lot of people who at 24 are already balancing multiple kids, multiple jobs, instead of the kind of, I'm waiting to become who I am. They're like,
Yeah.
I'm keeping people alive here, guys. So
Right.
like, I think I had to grow and age and meet more people and see more of the world to understand that perspective. But you're
Mhm.
right. When you're 24, you're just like, y'all seem pretty pissed.
Yeah. You're like, okay.
Like, I always think, like, when I hosted SNL, we did a sketch where we were making like doing a sketch based on Scandal, because I love Scandal,
Mhm.
the TV show Scandal, and Scandal in general.
Shout out Shondaland.
Shout out Shondaland always. And I played like a girl who was really bad at like her job as a fixer. And so everyone else was like moving really fast, like, the president's in danger, get the guns, get the passports. And I kept being like, this is crazy. And that's how I felt the whole time. I was like, guys, what? And now I have a much more clear-eyed perspective on it. But again, it's been really interesting to like relive it. And also I think you guys talking about it has also made the people I went through it with
Uh-huh.
reflect on it and us talk about it, which has been really healthy. Like for the other girls and I, for Rannells and I, for Carpo and I, for whoever, for Judd and I,
Uh-huh.
to talk about what that was like is really cool.
Yeah, because we recontextualized everything kind of a decade and a half later since the show aired. Like we talk about the abortion scene with Mimi Rose, where it's kind of this nuanced portrayal of Mimi Rose who gets abortion without talking to Adam. And of
Yeah.
course, it was very controversial when it first came out, but it felt like the conversation, like pre overturning of Roe v. Wade, like it was fun to see this nuanced take on it. Not fun, but like it was
It was
interesting.
fun for me.
It was kind of fun.
It's kind of fun.
It was fun
She's
for
in
me, I'm going to be
pajamas,
honest. I know, her
yeah.
pajamas. I remember being like, I want her to look like really like kind of hot and tousled. Like,
Yeah.
I don't want her to look like fucked up and pale. Like, she had a great abortion.
She really did.
Gillian needs no help with that.
So beautiful.
She's so beautiful.
Yeah.
Yeah, seeing her in person, we were like, hi.
I know.
Cool
Like,
hair.
I know. Like, I feel like in post Roe v. Wade, I've become
Mhm.
like even more defiant in my desire to
Right.
see depictions of, and like Too Much also has an abortion that's very
Yeah.
different. It's a very different kind of story, but it's always, and I worked with Planned Parenthood to make sure that that was also represented in a clear-eyed way. Like,
Mhm.
it's really important to me that there are abortion narratives that just defy our cultural expectation or demand of what they're meant to look like.
Mhm.
Yeah.
And that was the goal there. And yeah, Mimi Rose like holding flowers in pajamas, looking great.
I think it's so, I mean, I just remember feeling so like, I didn't know life could be like this. And so many moments in Girls, it's like, I didn't know, I mean, growing up in Texas is like very religious. And I was like, oh, I'll
It's
be a mom
interesting.
and stuff. And to like watch a show where it's just like these girls doing whatever they want and kind of like having the space to kind of explore who they are, it was
Mhm.
so just like, I never even thought that was an option. It like presented so many options.
Well, that's really meaningful to me because I will say I feel really lucky because my mother, even though she grew up just outside New York, she grew up in a world that was very like, it was post World War II, Jewish suburb. it was like you're either, if you really want to, you could be an art teacher if you really want to do something wild.
Right.
And she came to New York and and my mother is an artist. She was an AIDS activist. She's an abortion activist. She now works really hard in the world of trans rights and politics. Like, my mother showed me so many options about like what life could look like. And I was so surrounded by like feminism, by queerness, by transness, by like lots of different, by people who were childless, by people who had adopted kids, by people who were raising kids together but were not a couple. Like, there was different iterations. So the idea that like that could have presented that to you is so special to me. So thank you for telling me that.
Happy to. Okay, Panic in Central Park. I mean, the way everybody, it's still like the only thing we're talking about. You wrote that over the weekend when you were in a weird mood. Is that true?
I wrote over the weekend when I was in a weird mood.
It's like, we asked on Instagram like what we should ask, and people are just like, does she know how iconic she is? It's like all the questions are like, she is a genius. Does she know? You must know.
You know, I don't. That's such
a
nice question.
An insane question.
No, and that's my mother. Like, literally came into. I'm staying with my parents right now because I'm in the city, and my mom came into the room this morning at like 5 a.m. It was like, "You have nausea pills, right?" And I was like, "No." And she was like, "You had them?" And I was like, "Yeah, like 4 years ago." And she's like, "Where are they?" And I was like, "I took them." And because they were 4 years ago, and I've been nauseous in the time since.
Totally.
And then she like rustled all around. And then like stormed out, and I was like, so no, I don't feel iconic.
Totally.
I feel really uniconic.
You're being attacked in the morning.
I'm being attacked at 5:30 in the morning because I didn't keep my nausea pills in the last 4 years. That being said, it's so like things like that, Panic in Central Park, which was fully like Richard Shepard, who directed so many of those bottle episodes and is incredible, and obviously Allison, and shout out to Chris Abbott, who I just texted with. See you when you get back from New Zealand, brother.
Okay.
But what was so special about that show was that I was allowed to do things like go, okay, I've got a little idea, and I'm just gonna like go into my room, close the door, and like make a playlist and have a little feeling.
Yeah.
And then come out, and like I really would like put on a playlist. And then those scenes would like correspond. Like, all the songs that are in the episode are the playlist.
The ones you're listening to.
Really?
Are the ones I was listening to. Whether it's like that Dej Loaf song or that Leah Isis song. Like those, that's just what it was. And then I would like go in.
It's more of a musical episode than we thought.
It's a musical episode.
It's a musical episode.
And it was like, I mean, it's about all the things that I think people think it's about, which is like reconsidering what romance means to you. I mean, sometimes I think sad things are the most romantic things in the world, personally.
Totally.
That's why it's hard for me to write about love, because I think sad stuff is romantic. So sometimes I've had to recondition myself not to think things that are painful, scary, isolating, and tragic are romantic, and to recognize that things are consistent, cozy, and satisfying.
Right.
You
Are
really
romantic.
explore that in too much,
Yeah.
though. You really
Well.
do. Because the show, it does have these sad, really like wrenching moments, but it also has those comforting. I
The
don't
end of
Thank
episode
you.
4. I was sobbing. It's so also, I mean, classic interior bathtub's a huge part of your story, and to get and to see it represented in Too Much meant the world, and also just like the girls' music, like the soundtracks are so like the amount of people that Robin's Dancing on My Own is like one with
That
them.
means so
But
much to
the
me.
soundtrack didn't Too Much.
Oh
Like
my
all the
God.
songs that played, I was like, no, she didn't. No, she didn't.
Thank you.
The Kesha song, please.
Kesha means a lot to me.
Of course.
And I just
Means a
feel
lot
like
to all
Praying
of
didn't
us.
get the fucking love that it deserves.
Mm-mm.
And so I was like, we are going to give Praying its moment. It's about, yes, it's about busting out of a Dr. Luke Record contract. And yes, it's about what it was about for her. But it's an anthem for all of us who have
Literally.
ever escaped a dynamic that was painful and had a stranglehold on us. It's a classic. We bow down to you, Kesha. And I feel like TikTok is really giving Kesha her flowers as a kid. I can't say
We
that
love
with a straight face,
Kesha.
but we love Kesha. And I feel like Kesha's really being given what she deserves as an artist via the platform TikTok.
Shout out TikTok and shout out Kesha's TikTok. My favorite song in middle school.
By the way, and shout out Kesha creating TikTok.
Yeah, absolutely.
And shout out Kesha getting paid for creating TikTok.
No, thank God someone's getting paid.
Yeah.
Because I don't think most people are.
No, I hope she is.
All love to Spotify.
But yeah, I'm so glad, and I'm so glad you recognize how much what I feel about interior bathtub.
Interior bathtub, I mean.
You're the bravest person on earth for using your bathtub in New York City.
Thank you.
Yeah.
I
Although
love.
we will say we just got to a Broad City episode where they're in the bathtub and their bathtub is like 4
Yours is
times
much
as
cuter.
grimy as
Really?
like your Greenpoint one, and it's like how did the props even know how to make it that
It's
much
there.
dirtier?
They can get pretty disgusting. I love a bath. I'll take a bath anywhere. And I mean anywhere. I've heard about a New York City bathtub where a mouse came out
Of what part?
alive. A mouse came out alive from the faucet.
Oh my
my God.
god.
The
Swum right
faucet.
out.
Well,
Like,
we were talking about this.
Turn on
before
the
we
water.
recorded.
Mouse swims out. I'd go, hello, friend. But I've heard stories.
It's a healthy microbiome in there.
That's
what it is.
It's drinking poppy.
Yeah, it's drinking poppy legit.
One question that I feel like has really transcended the last like decade since Girls is people really. I mean, when you first wrote Hannah, it was such like a controversial figure, but one of the largest comments I get about the show now is like, I am Hannah. I identify so much with her. I know people see her in such a negative light, but like, is it okay to be a Hannah?
Yeah. That's a great question. I think that it's interesting because social media makes people present themselves like it made people want to kind of curate their lives, but then also what's interesting is that it also makes people like express their day-to-day messiness and chaos because they can't resist being like, my boyfriend just left the house and he just said that he's not coming back unless I blank, never mind, false alarm, we're doing great. Like just presenting this kind of constant stream of inner dialogue that maybe should stay inner as outer or whatever. I
Totally.
probably just proved that I'm not looking at Instagram with the way I described that. But I think like people are more comfortable revealing what we have always known, which is like the human state is in constant fluctuation. Would I co-sign all of Hannah's behavior? No. Do I think Hannah can be insufferable at times? Certainly. Do I think that she's going to grow up into like a fully healthy, engaged adult? Absolutely. Because she's actually learning. She's not an incurable narcissist. She's learning from her mistakes.
Mhm.
She's capable of feeling remorse. She didn't hit someone with her car and run. Like, she is actually... I feel like we feel more empathy when like I remember there was this show The Sinner with Jessica Biel where like
Oh
in
my
like
god, when she remembers.
she's in like a
She
fugue
remembers.
state and like stabs a man to death and
Yeah.
then remembers what he did to her. And I'm like, we have more empathy for someone who like stabs a man 1,000 times in a fugue state than somebody who just like kind of occasionally is rude to her friend. And by the way, I had more empathy for Jessica Biel stabbing a man in a fugue state than I did for myself in my 20s. Just being complicated. And I recognize now that I have my ups, I have my downs, but that like my intentions, it's an overused thing. People are always like, I know my heart and it's in the right place. People love on like social media and statements to be like, I know my heart. I wouldn't say that, but I would say that like you grow from all of those mistakes into a
Yeah.
person who has a moral compass, a sense of yourself, a sense of communal responsibility, sense of duty. And also it's like, there's no fucking medal for being, there's no reward awaiting you in heaven for handling everything perfectly. Like I remember a friend was telling me that she was embarrassed about how she handled her breakup, like with her boyfriend of, I don't know, 10 years. And I'm like, what, were you going to get an award for like elegantly like dabbing your tears and like leaving? You didn't punch him. You didn't set his new girlfriend's hair on fire. You just like said something bitchy and like I don't know, were weird when you picked your stuff up.
Yeah.
It's okay.
That's fine.
You don't-
You're human.
As long as she doesn't Jessica Biel him, it's like we are fine.
That's
we
exactly
are okay.
right. Like everyone
Yeah.
needs to calm down, and we both have we have too much focus on manners and like not
Mhm.
enough focus on ethics.
Whoa. I can't wait to clip that.
That's a good clip.
I
Yeah.
literally do feel that way though, because it's like I'll do one thing that's kind of bad and I'll be like, I should be shot with a gun. And it's like,
course.
okay, well, you're actually like, you just sent an email weird. Like, I think it's going to be okay.
God forbid you make a mistake.
God forbid you make a mistake.
She
But
just
it
wanted to
feels
feel
illegal.
everything.
But that's what's so, I think like Gen Z loves girls because I feel like, I mean, of course, like we're not having sex, we're not having friends, we're not leaving the house. Like, and it's so fun to watch a show where it was like right before, like we were so afraid to do
Well,
everything.
I always forget that you guys are like growing up in a pandemic and you guys are growing up in it like the anxiety that Hannah feels about STDs feels like positively quaint. You guys are in your houses like isolated, covered in Purelling your fucking vegetables. Like, it's a
Literally.
different time. It's wild. But I do think that watching someone just like behave naughtily must feel like a kind of fun throwback.
It's literally a fun throwback for us.
But I remember all of the people were like, I hate this girl. She's a monster. I remember being like, you're sleeping with your cousin. Like, I know it. I fucking know it. You are so much bad. Like,
they're
you're
obsessed with Walter White. It's like, all right, guys.
Yeah, no, literally. I was like, I know that you are so bad. You have been dating your best friend's husband for 15 years. You have all your children are fathered by him. And you also like run a cartel where kids run your drugs for you on the side. You're a bad woman. Because like people who throw stones live in little glass houses. It's just
Literally.
Don't you dare, Lena. She said it.
She said it, folks.